I never played Warhammer Total War. Any of them. That's my confession. 20-something years of playing strategy games, including the older Total Wars, and I somehow missed the boat on the biggest of the lot. Though, I decided it was time to fix that. Medieval 2 was my last entry, and after that, I fell off the series. The first Warhammer should have been enough to bring me back into the fold, but I guess I was busy in 2016. Then its sequel came out and I figured, I didn't play the first game, I'll skip it. Then, Warhammer 3, and I toyed with jumping in on it, but I wasn't ready to surrender my wallet to an ever-growing list of DLC. That holding out lasted until a few weeks ago, when I saw the game on sale, thought, sod it, let's see what the fuss is about, and gave it a whirl. This has been the fastest I have fallen headfirst into obsession with a game in a very long time. I had a lot of misconceptions before playing, and went into my first campaigns as fodder, standing still in a noob box and turning close victories into decisive defeats. After getting chewed up, stomped on, and poked by a million pointy sticks, I managed to bag my first very hard campaign win, opening the door to a wider game. I would be kicking 2016 me for not getting in on the action back then, but I'd rather look forward to what I know will be a lengthy and probably quite expensive obsession. Any new players also late to the party thinking about getting into the IP, hopefully you learn a little something from my journey. And veterans of the franchise rejoice in knowing that another player has entered the fold, one who is all too ready to receive your wise words and sagely advice. But first, you might be wondering why I was so adamant on not playing the franchise in the first place. Shogun, Rome, and Medieval 1 and 2 were formative games for me, and I even collected Warhammer Fantasy miniatures way back when. This should have been the perfect match. But since ignoring the first game and skirting the second, I realized I had built up quite a list of reasons to not play the game, and in retrospect, a lot of them are completely unfounded. I built up an imaginary hill, and I was ready to die on it. So back in the day, the first Total War entries were big ones for me. But then I moved into 4X territory. Civilization, Age of Wonders, the Endless series, that sort of thing. I loved the idea of exploring the map and never knowing what I'll find, which ended up pushing me away from Total War given the world is always the same. When you've uncovered the map and seen it all, you go to another game, and then another. There is a finite limit on discovery. So that was the big one, but my personal anti-Total War propaganda was a long list. The empire building and economy side of the game, all very simple. The big draw is the battles, but I wasn't really bothered by those. I like an RTS, but much smaller and more deliberate, which is the antithesis of Total War. There's limited faction choice and customization, and once you've played a campaign, you've done it. Why go back? The replayability is nothing compared to a 4X. Now, I know some of you are cracking your knuckles and ready to type out a message calling me an idiot for having these opinions, but let me save you some time, cause I can say it myself. I was an idiot for building up those reasons not to play, because I was so stupidly wrong. First off, the map issues. Yeah, I'm not discovering a new map every time I play, but the world is so damn big and varied and interesting and compelling that I don't even care. Each campaign feels like it takes place in its own little realm with things going off in the distance, and certain events bring these worlds into contact, usually with violent consequences. In terms of faction choice, what I thought was limiting is actually mind-boggling. Everything I played felt so varied. I originally figured different lords would be a slight change of flavor, but they can turn the game on its head. When playing as Thorgrim, Belegar, or Thorak in their campaigns, I got completely different experiences, despite them all boiling down to being defense-heavy factions with a short temper. Oh, I didn't mean to say short. The replayability myth I'd made up also had no leg to stand on, as I found myself diving back into the same campaign again and again, trying to nail that opening, or take a different approach. You've got a goal to accomplish, but ultimately the world is your sandbox, and you can throw that to the wind and do whatever you want. And then there's the big one, battles. Something I had no interest in initially and felt forced to engage with. There's only so many times I can make a big box, and so many times I can watch that box get crumpled in. But the more I played, the more I learned, the more confident I got until I opened said box, and out came a fist. I don't know, I'm still new to this, I am not good at battle analogies. When that happened, my obsession level with this game increased even more, and I saw the individuality and uniqueness of each faction beyond just campaign mechanics. And what's more, all these things, they weren't a slow crawl of realization over dozens of hours. Most of them were realized in my first campaign. It clicked into place without much resistance, and a lot of that is down to the learning curve. There's a lot there, but getting in and enjoying it doesn't take long. Comparing it to other grand strategy games, there's not much to get your head around. City management, diplomacy, army and hero management. There's layers there, but the basics are not difficult to grasp. The more finicky things are going to be lord and faction mechanics, but you're only tackling one of those at a time. So you get a broad base layer, and then you spend the rest of the time soaking in the remainder of the info. And granted, there's a lot of that. Units, opposing lords, other factions. Despite being comfortable in playing, you're always learning something new. And every hour that ticks by in each battle you fight, you are becoming better. You're improving in multiple different skill sets, and that in itself is very gratifying. And as you get more and more confident, you can dial up the difficulty, leaning towards the ultimate challenge, which is where I found myself after my first few campaigns. I picked a lord with a comfortable start, Miao Ying I'd seen recommended, and exercised my knowledge, only to get absolutely brutalized again and again and again. I'd play the first few turns and then get smashed by Snitch. I'd restart, change my focus, get smashed by Chaos. I'd try and balance both, and get smashed on all fronts. Each time, I'd go back, do it again, hoping something would change. Now that's a pretty textbook example of insanity, but I loved this. Every failure was an incremental step forward, a lesson learned, and while there wasn't much progress between attempts, over a few false starts I went from an impossible fight to sending Snitch packing, only to then get smashed by Harkon, but that's beside the point. The cycle of setting myself a goal, optimizing that opening play, trying a slightly different strategy each time, I found this so rewarding. My misconception earlier about the lack of replayability, I have found dozens of hours just doing this and really enjoying it. Others will surely find this approach mind-numbing and pointless. It's a game that you can approach in a ton of different ways, and it provides the experience you want. I like to play deliberately and get punished for mistakes. Some will want to throw caution to the wind and sweep across the map. Others will want to bring as many bodies to the party and smash everything in sight. I didn't come into the game expecting to play it a certain way, but I quickly found the style that I felt rewarding, and with each setback I got a little better, and I felt confident to try my luck elsewhere as far away as possible from Snitch. My very first campaign victory was with Gorrock. And while veterans of the game may scoff at this for being on the easy side, it felt like a massive hurdle. I felt accomplished, and that is the important thing. Stepping into very hard really did open the game up for me. I wanted to play deliberately and have little decisions mean something, and as I took on the easier campaigns, I felt confident to try other things, utilizing different lords, units, and strategies, going from dinosaur chomping to cannon blasting to plague spreading. Cathay was my springboard, and while I have no intention to return to Snitch's dinner table anytime soon, cycling through the factions has been deeply fun. And I know I am only just scratching the surface. Now I'm exploring further, seeing more of the world and getting stuck into different ways to play in the campaign and in battle. My list of factions I am psyched to play keeps growing. I love the idea of the Vampire Coast because Flintlock Zombies is just excellent thematically. I want to try Nurgle to go deeper into the Pestilence game plan. Norska for the pillaging Viking fantasy, Wood Elves to roleplay a Forest Ranger, and Dark Elves for no particular reason. Warriors of Chaos seem like they have a bunch of compelling playstyles to explore, and Kislev is one I am excited to dive into, mostly because I am somewhat obsessed with Catherine and her voice actor Devra Wild. We have an interview segment on the channel with her about her inspiration for Catherine. It is a good watch. I will link it at the end of the video. I've got this ever-growing list of factions and campaigns I want to dive into, and on one hand, time is a factor. The other, I keep defaulting to my absolute two favorites, my MVPs that I keep coming back to. And it may be pretty basic, but dwarfs and greenskins, they are so much fun. On one side, dig deep, hold the line and settle grudges, make friends, antagonize elves, and restore your former glory. On the other, constant unending war, scrapping any chance you get, and diplomacy, sod that is Hume nonsense. Why talk when you can fight? They're polar opposites but come together like two sides of the same coin. Both have compelling playstyles that fit depending on my mood, and their campaigns and events are so thematic and oftentimes pretty damn funny. I will move on to the other factions soon enough, but I cannot get enough of these campaigns, even if I'm only just playing them through till the short victory conditions. I didn't mean to say short again. It really is the game of 1,000 lessons, many of them obvious. Tactics in battles, lord interactions, learning that you can in fact blow up your own army with spells and artillery. That was a painful lesson to learn. But there are some bigger takeaways I got from all this. The first is quite important. Don't judge a game on some false idea you've built up. I look back to how disinterested I was in Total War a few weeks ago, and how foolish was I? Second, stepping out of your comfort zone can yield massive rewards. Even when I started to get into the game, I avoided battles whenever I could, but I leaned into them, watched some videos, picked up some tactics, and put them into practice. Felt that warm fuzzy feeling you get when you learn a new trick, solidify a skill, and mow down a horde of Skaven with a massive dinosaur. Every incremental improvement adds up. I started my journey getting smashed to pieces in every battle, bottling it as soon as I had a dozen or more units to think about. Now, well, I still bottle it in particularly large battles, but I feel more comfortable with every passing conflict. That constant feeling of growing as a player is rewarding, and I still know there are many, many more miles to go. Most new strategy games I go into, I feel comfortable pretty quickly. Here, I am out of my depth. I am confused and slogging my way through, and I kinda love that. Now, I am not going to run through all the tricks and habits I picked up because A, this isn't that sort of video, and B, I'm not very good and I will probably tell you the wrong thing. But if you are a new player and going through this journey, I found Zerkovic's videos to be hugely helpful, though there's a ton of great Total War creators making excellent guides that helped me gain some confidence. My first 100 hours in the game went by fast. Usually with the title, that's where I would step back, let it breathe, and revisit later. But no part of me wants to stop. There's still so much to explore, and I am really excited by that prospect. But what's my next step? Well, maybe you can help me with that. Down below, drop me your favorite lords to play as and why. Help me build a shortlist for my next 100 hours. And for all that wisdom you've built up over the years, get some tips for a new player down in the comments section. And if you're like me and you've joined the party late, you're getting stuck in and wowed by this game while everyone else has been there and done that, let me hear from you too. If you've enjoyed your time here, be sure to subscribe to the channel. I am here every week with strategy content, and if you want to see more Total War stuff, let me know. I am a newcomer, but I would love to make more videos on my Warhammer journey, or dabble in the historical games. We also have a bunch of other stuff, like that Devra Wild as Catherine interview snippet. I will link that in a mo. But anyway, these have been the revelations of a man who decided to ignore Total War Warhammer for nearly a decade, before realizing it is the most important thing in the world, and I never want to stop playing. Tale as old as time, eh?